Hello there. Welcome to class. I'm Miss Faust. Do you have your paper handy? You do? Good job. And a pen or pencil? Great. That means we are ready to discuss Alice Walker's everyday use. I'm going to try to cover the highlights of this wonderful, powerful story. Okay? Such as we're going to talk about the theme, symbolism. We may even cover irony and similes. Again, just to let you know, again and again and again, I may not cover everything. Time-wise, we're going to cover just the high points. So let's get started. Make sure you take down notes. And I'm not just talking about this right now. I'm talking about what I tell you. Please take notes. So we have three major characters, namely the narrator, who is the mother. She's the I. We have Maggie and Dee, her daughters. Dee is the older of the two. Okay. In the very beginning, Walker sets up the setting. So we're talking about older home, older house. We're talking about afternoon. We are talking about two people who are waiting for the third person to show up on the scene. Okay. So we've got the mother sharing some tidbits about herself, that she's not exactly your charming, beautiful looking woman, dresses all fancy and woo all that. No, she's more down to earth. She tells you what she thinks. She's very honest about it, very blunt about it. That's how it is. Okay, she does a lot of things that men would do, like kill animals. Has no problems doing it. And then we also get an impression of her younger daughter, Maggie. That Maggie is very much afraid of her older sister. Okay? And yes, we learn a little something about her Dee. Dee was connected to a fire of their house, their first house, the one they lived in before. Okay, a little connection there. And that the mother put a lot of her money, her investments and everything into her education. So when we look at Dee and Maggie, we see one who's very educated, namely Dee. And we can tell that once she gets on the scene, we can tell she's highly educated and Maggie is not. We also can see that Dee is very pushy and she's a strong personality, whereas Maggie, from the start, we can see she's very fearful. She's very shy. She's very withdrawn. She does have a very tight relationship with her mother. Okay, so they're very close. Neither one, again, is all fancy. Woohoo, look up to my hair and what's up this? Nothing like that. Okay, I must have a $50 dress. We're talking those days. That's a lot of money. No, nothing like that at all. Okay, so then we have all that set up, and finally Dee shows up again, nicely dressed up, and we can't talk. We read about her wonderful hair, and that's where the similes start. So let's look at that. We have a section where it says, I hear Maggie go, again. You know, her sister's coming out of the car. It is her sister's hair. It stands straight up like the wool on a sheep. It is black as night, and around the edges are two long pigtails that rope about like small lizards disappearing behind her ears. So she nicely made up. Okay, lots of similes that don't exactly make her hair look great, but okay, lizards and okay. So yes, her sister's looking at it going, okay. So she's not alone, is she? So we get a minor character who shows up, and his name is Assalamu Alaikum. Okay, and that is a black Muslim name. Please note the characters in this story, as you know, Alice Walker herself, they are African Americans. Okay, so Walker chose a black Muslim name for this character, who's very tight with, in other words, a buddy of Dee's. And again, keep in mind, very educated. So she has these brilliant ideas. Okay. She makes it clear when they have the meal that she's no longer Dee. She's now called Manjero Wanika Kimanjo. Again, it's going to be a black Muslim name. all right, and that Dee is dead, and the Mama's going, whoa, 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 what's the problem here? What's wrong with the name Dee? What is wrong with it? That is a family name that represents us. Well, you got to understand. Key point here in this story is that Walker's trying to bring across to us is heritage is very important for Walker in this story. Dee has one interpretation of heritage, whereas the mother and Maggie have another one. Maggie's very close. She understands her heritage, where she came from, as does the mother. Whereas Dee is looking at it and going, we're moving away from that. You got to move on. We got to go with the flow. We got to go with the future. Whereas Mama and Maggie seem to be stuck in the present or in the past. They're not able to move on. They can't understand that version of heritage. Heritage is important to both girls. Totally different meanings, though. Okay. So Mama talks about she named. Okay, here we go. All right. You know as well as me, you was named after your aunt, Dicey. Dicey is my sister. She named Dee. We called her Big D after Dee was born. But who was she named after? I guess after Grandma Dee. Okay, here it comes. All right. Okay. That's about okay. Her mother. That's about as far back as I can trace it. And she said she probably could trace it back beyond the Civil War. Okay, and that's what it means. Basically, that Dee is moving away from that. That is a heritage that Mama is proud of. We're talking about a daughter being named after all of these different D's. We're talking, again, Civil War time. She should be proud of her name, Dee, but she isn't. She's moving on. And she wants her family to move on with her. Whereas Mama's fighting that. It isn't going to happen. Mama is proud of who she is. Same thing for Maggie. Okay, so they talk about different items. Mama's willing to give to Dee, and Dee's going, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that. What I do want is the quilt. Okay? All right, let's see. And the items that the mom is happy to give her are really important ones because they were handmade. Again, family, different meaning. Those handmade have no importance, but this quilt here does. Okay. Let's see. Out came Wanjero with 2 quilts. They had been pieced by Grandma Dee, and then Big D and me had hung them on the quilt frames on the front porch and quilted them. Okay. She never taught her daughter Dee to quilt. Not that Dee would have cared. But she did teach Maggie. She taught Maggie how to make quilts. That's very important. And that means a lot. Because Maggie learned from her grandma and her aunt Big D. Okay? So that's been handed down. It's very important what they hand down. You need to appreciate it. Okay? So Maggie does appreciate the quilts. First of all, she made a quilt. The quilt means so much to her. This is something that she herself made and learned, and she created it. Whereas Dee wants it for what? What does Dee want it for? She just wants it to take it and hang them up on the wall. Look, everyone, when they come into her apartment or house, whatever she has, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Look at that. Here's a piece of this, piece of that. Because these quilts have little pieces from the people. Okay? Exactly. Let's see. Okay. And both of them were scraps of dresses, the ones that she pulls out of the trunk. Grandma Dee had worn 50 and more years ago, bits and pieces of Grandpa Gerald's paisley shirts, and one teeny faded blue piece, about the size of a penny matchbox, that was from great-grandpa Ezra's uniform that he wore in the Civil War. And so she says, can I have these old quilts? And Mom was going, no, 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 no. How about some other ones? We got some other ones here. Because these have meaning, and she knows it, to who? Maggie. So now Wanjero/D says, but I don't want those. Okay? They're stitched around the borders by machine. She doesn't want that. Okay, and the mother is saying, but they'll last longer if they're stitched. And she, no, 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 no. Okay. All right. These are all pieces of dresses Grandma used to wear. She did all the stitching by hand. Imagine. Okay. Imagine. Yeah, you would think that would mean a lot. Handmade. But that's not the point. It's a showpiece. It's a showpiece. Look. Look. Hard work they put into the stitching. I mean, if it's machine made, it's not a showpiece. But if you can say, hey, these people made a handmade, and people are going to look at it, ooh, yeah. They must have spent a long time putting that quilt together. Okay? All right. Let's see. So, yes, the mother is sort of stuck because here's Dee. Dee, she's got the quilts, and she's thinking, oh, my gosh, I can't take those from Dee. She's got them. They're hers now. And there's poor Maggie just standing there. Just standing there. She doesn't do anything. Let's see. She doesn't fight for them. All right. And then the mother says, hey, these belong to Maggie. And then, of course, her sister says, but Maggie can't appreciate these quilts. She'd probably be backward enough to put them to what? What's the title? Everyday use. That's a point Walker is trying to make in this story. What's the point, you might say? The point is, these quilts are to be used every day. They are not to be up on the wall and that's it. They're to be used. And if they fall apart, what do you do with them? You junk them. In other words, you throw them away. But they were used. That shows appreciation. Okay. So, of course, to Wanjero/D, these are worth a lot. For the wall, of course. Or in a cabinet somewhere. And Maggie will never appreciate them. Okay. And then says this after the mother goes, here, give me those quilts. Here you go. To Maggie. All right. And then, what would you do with them? She says to Dee. Hang them. Wow. Really? A quilt for hanging? No, a quilt to be used. Okay. So yes, she gives them to Maggie, tells Dee, you know what? Take some other ones. Take some of these. Go for it. Okay, let's see. All right. And then she says, you just don't understand when she gets ready to leave. And she's talking to Maggie and the mother. And the mother's like, what don't I understand? Your heritage. Here we go. Here's the irony of it all. You ought to try to make something of yourself too, Maggie. It's really a new day for us. But from the way you and Mama still live, you'd never know it. Your heritage. And telling them, yeah, you're living in the past. You got to move on. That's great. So far, they haven't had any problems. Mama and Maggie, they've been doing okay. And the mother doesn't understand heritage? Think about it. Who really doesn't understand heritage? It would be who? Maggie. Maggie's actually the one who doesn't understand her heritage. Because she thinks heritage, when you pass something down from generation to generation, then you're supposed to throw it up on a wall or get a cabinet and close up the door, and that's it. And you can show it to people and go, hey, look everyone, I got this new quilt. Whereas Maggie actually uses it because it's supposed to be used. All right? All right. And of course, she has to rub it in that with her wonderful education, she's moved on in the world. She now has a Muslim name. She has a friend who has a Muslim name. She's out there doing things. Has a wonderful home and whatever. Okay? Fancy clothes. She's someone special. And Maggie and the mom are, they're down here somewhere. Because she's up there. They're, okay. But they're actually ones who truly understand what? Heritage. So, that is quite important, isn't it, in this story? Okay, so let's look over here. Symbolism. Do we remember symbol? Okay, so when you think about the flag, some of us think of freedom, some think of the 13 colonies, and okay. So D is a symbol of what? She's a symbol of success. Yes, she has made it. Maggie and her mother are still in that old house. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, they're still in that old house. They're living in the past. Accompanied by a lack of remembrance and care for her ancestral history. She really doesn't know her history. She has no idea who really created these quilts and how to make them and where her name really comes from. Okay. It's from we're talking Civil War times. Does she really care about the Civil War and the family? No. In her mind, she's creating a new history. And it starts with her. Okay. Maggie is a symbol of respect and passion for her past. So, and that actually she is. She's not a fighter. She doesn't come up to Dee and go, "No, you give me those. You don't understand. You don't understand your past. Give me those." She doesn't fight. Okay? But she respects the past. That's key. Okay? I'm trying to see if there's something else. And yes, she does have a love for the past. Whereas Dee shuns the past. It doesn't exist. Okay. Here we're talking theme. One major theme is the following. Quotation marks because it's okay. One's heritage is meant to be used. Look at the title. And made a part of daily life. Not preserved and put on a shelf or a wall. Dee would do that. Okay. Or heirlooms, special possessions, one of those wonderful days, such as a quilt, are meant to be used, not stored in a cabinet for show or hanged up for show. Okay? You can look at it in this more basic way. Okay? But that's exactly it. Heritage. You're to use heritage. Make use of it. Respect. Have passion. Okay. And let's see what else. And heritage can come in any form. It could be a quilt. It could be anything. All right. Any questions regarding everyday use? Okay. So the key is to use it every day, isn't it? Don't just put it away so you have it for who knows what. Use it. And if it's used, you move on. And Maggie has no problems. She knows how to quilt. She can replace those quilts. Okay. Here's your assignment. You will need to do paragraph 1 today and make sure I get paragraph 1 today. So when you're done with paragraph 1, please send it on to me. Okay? Today. Here's your essay topic. Discuss the differences between Maggie and Dee. I actually shared a few differences. I can tell it's one of those days. I shared some with you. Okay, so if you were taking notes, you got a head start. The differences between Maggie and Dee. Differences. That's it. I don't want any similarities. Suggestions. Look at their personality. What are their beliefs? What are their attitudes toward life? Okay? Think about Maggie. Using things. Apply that to her attitude. Life is all about actually applying it, using it, not just sitting there and nothing. Okay? Make something of life. Your key is focus on how the two are different. How are they different? And find evidence in the story. Okay, you need to follow the PA writing formula. I keep saying that. 2 pages, 5 paragraphs, 8 words per line at least. Transitions, 3 questions the intro, 3 sentences the conclusion, and the like. Okay, please follow that. It has a lot to do with your grade. You're to contrast, not compare the 2 girls, the 2 sisters. The differences. I don't want to see anything about similarities. And you're to use evidence from the story. So back it up from here. If you say, I'm just going to say, if you say that D is nasty, okay, where in this story do I find that? Do I find evidence? Okay, you need to give me that evidence. This is what shows her nastiness toward her mother, the heritage, to to herself, no, to Maggie. Okay, you need to give me that evidence. Okay, also, first question of first paragraph, I'm still having to tell people this. I need Walker's name and the story title. The story title is in quotation marks. Please keep that in mind. Okay, do you have any questions or the like? So Walker's using quite a lot. She talks heavy-duty characters, simile, irony at the end. It's ironic, isn't it? She's telling them they don't understand their heritage. That's funny, because she's the one that doesn't understand her heritage. Okay, so we've got that. You've got symbolism, using a lot of literary elements in this story. Okay, where's the high point? Where's your climax? Climax comes towards the end, doesn't it? When it's a matter of the mother saying, give me these. You get them, Maggie. You pick some other ones. You appreciate them. Pick some other ones. Okay? All right? So, a lot of that. Okay. If there are any questions or anything, let me know. Otherwise, let's see. I wish you a wonderful day. Just make sure I get paragraph 1, which 3 questions. Keep this in mind. So I do wish you a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Just remember, everyday use. Use things every day. Till next time, bye-bye.